Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast. I'm 10 Types, as I was joined by Uncommon Fossil.
Hello, and hopefully I hold up. I'm not feeling 100% today, but I will bring all I have to the table.
Yep, and I'm feeling good enough as well. Today we're talking about Mega EXs and three prize Pokemon. Mega EXs, as in the new Mega EXs. We're going to be going through and talking about different mechanics that are like this and kind of how we want, how those mechanics have been, because there's been a lot of, I almost want to say outrage about this that I think has been kind of. Well, we're going to get into it. I think this is a really interesting thing to talk about. There's a lot of stuff that's been happening actually recently in the TCG. We're going to talk about some in the future. There's been a bunch of cool new card reveals, nothing absolutely crazy in that regard in the regular TCG. But then there's been a whole new set in Pocket, which is also cool. We'll be covering that presumably next week, I think.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and I'm going to ask you a question. Sorry, and I know we talked for a minute before what we're going to do, and now I'm throwing you a curveball. But it maybe answer this later. But is the biggest mechanic for the TCG for the TCG in 2025? Is it the Mega EXs or the trainers Pokemon? That's a question to
Oh
ask
yeah, I think
out
it's
there.
Mega EXs. Well, trainers Pokemon, we talked about this some. People like trainers Pokemon are like, wow, I'm so happy trainers Pokemon are back. But not gonna lie, they're like not really a unique mechanic. They are like, I mean, they're cool, I guess, but they're very similar to, like ancient Pokemon or future Pokemon, to be honest. They're a pretty simple mechanic, and hardly even a mechanic at all, to be honest. But then the Megas are a new mechanic, um, as we'll get into.
Yeah, a new mechanic with a recycled name, right? Because which is just kind of weird. I agree that I think this is the biggest new mechanic for the year. The odd thing is usually the big new mechanic is at the start of the year, not like because it'll come out probably just a few months before rotation. But I think I have a bit of a thought about why that is, but I'll save that for later. But I think it's unusual
Yeah.
why it's late in the year because I do agree this is the big thing. Like when the like when the say the battle styles drop, right? That was the start of a year. That was the big thing for the year. It kind of feels like that. It's a little odd the way they've done this.
Well, but and I was like, I was also kind of thinking that obviously the trainers Pokemon is at the beginning of the year. By the way, by the beginning of the year, we mean the first set of like the new block. Prismatic
Right.
Evolutions was before. I was actually last year in Japan, so we're not counting that. But yeah, but the ancient and future Pokemon, I believe, were came out in the last set of their year, I think. Um, in the expansion. Paradox Rift, which was the last set of 2023, and Paradox Rift also introduced the oh no, this didn't introduce the ace specs. The ace specs were in the first set of 2024, I think.
Uh,
I don't remember exactly, to be honest. Let's see. Yeah, they were. So, but the main mechanic was, I think, the ancient and future Pokemon, and that was at the end of the year. So, Pokemon's mixing things up a little within the Scarlet and Violet era, and I would say these mechanics have all been less impactful. Outside of maybe we'll see about the Mega EXs, but the like trainers Pokemon and ancient future feel a little less impactful than say the V Maxes or the tag teams, which we'll definitely be talking about in today's video.
because we'll talk tag teams, which was the third year of that block, or I don't know if block's the right term, but of the that era, I guess. And then I guess the V stars are also the last year, the big mechanic that year, and this is the big mechanic, but it's only coming at the end of the year. It's a little funny that way, but
Yeah, like halfway through the year.
I don't know. It's later than that. So these are coming out. So we need to talk about what the Mega
Oh, okay.
EXs are, right? Because I
Mhm.
think they're coming out in Japan, like which we don't even know that I don't think, but they're coming out like August in Japan probably. Um,
So we'll probably have it in like our September, like in September, and
or
then we'll have another set in like November.
yeah, I'm thinking it might come in November, which might be the last main set or the second to
Okay.
last.
Wait, what? Why are you thinking it'll come out in November? I'm not
Um,
actually like super familiar with.
I
Obviously, I pay attention to the Japanese sets, but yeah.
that's kind of the talk I've heard from people. It's a big it's right rotation. Assuming it happens the same time will be at the end of March, or I assume that's when it's going to happen. So it's going to be between 6 and 9 months after rotation. that we're going to get these cards, right? I think it's in that range, right?
Yeah, it's in the middle range. Um,
Yeah,
but it'll be some time with these cards. They're like at the tail end of the Scarlet and Violet era. And you said you thought there was like a reason for this.
yeah, and yeah, and I think it relates to. I think when they have a little bit of concern for cards that they might be a little overpower and warp the game a little bit, then they put it towards the end so it's in the game less, right? Which I think makes, if you think about like when they drop a new set, like when the new V cards dropped, the new Vs to a large extent, except like Zacian was one of the best ones, but a lot of the new cards are the weaker, and then as the year goes on, they get better with the new mechanic. And I think partly it's just it's protection so that they don't mess things up too long. So like Badoo came the last set before rotation, and I heard that was possibly intentional because just in case Badoo really makes the game kind of lousy to people play, it's almost a year less that it's in format by doing that. So putting it back just in case, because I am concerned that three prize card. I was glad that they were going away, so I'm disappointed that they're back, and it could make the game a little less enjoyable. So I think they're shortened the time it's in format just in case it makes things better.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say I'm like excited for three prizes coming back. Being completely honest, I think they'll be cool in the game, but we'll see. I'm not like super convinced. Um, because well, we're gonna talk about the mechanics as a whole and the specific cards here, which I think is actually these specific cards are just a look into some just a small few of
Right.
the cards from the mechanic, but I think they are a way to see Pokemon's design ideas for this, and I think that's something really important here. But I guess let's say what they are,
Yeah.
um, because we didn't say that this is Mega Pokemon like from the video game coming to the TCG. The Mega Pokemon were previously in the TCG in a few, one main form, but technically some other forms. And they were something different before. They actually didn't include the word Mega in their name generally. But now they are Pokemon EX. They like Mega Lucario evolves from Riolu, the single prizer, and Riolu. Yeah, obviously, just one prize. Mega Lucario, yeah, or regular Lucario EX is a two prizer, then Mega Lucario EX is a three prizer, gives up three prizes when knocked out, has more HP. It's like a stronger card, but it's not anything super special beyond that. We see there's some like artistic stuff with like the style of it, which I assume will be a constant theme throughout these cards. And we also see like it says it Mega Evolved. It says it's the Pokemon Mega or the Mega Evolved form of Lucario, but it's not like it evolves from Lucario. Versus, should we talk about the old Megas now?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it like when they implement the mechanics in the TCG, sometimes they're pretty far removed from the video game, and this one is the old EXs were Mega EXs were closer, I think, to the video game because right, the old EXs, which is capital E, capital X, by the way, um, they evolved the Mega like Mega Blastoise EX evolved from Blastoise EX, so the Mega was essentially an additional stage within that.
Blastoise EX was a basic Pokemon previously.
Yes.
So the previous Mega EXs, which as I said, this is called just like M Blastoise EX, and then the stage is Mega. And so these are essentially like stage ones. They are not stage ones. And what happened was they were still two prizers. The basics were two prizers. The stage ones are the essentially stage ones were two prizers. And then they had this Mega Evolution rule, which says when you Mega Evolve, which is more or less like regular evolution, then your turn ends when you evolve this. However, you could attach these cards called Spirit Links, like Blastoise Spirit Link. I'm pretty sure that had one,
Right.
and then your turn would not end. And so that was how those worked. Mega EXs, I'm not as familiar with these older ones. I think they were like they were okay, but they don't really stand out to me as like super amazing. If we take a look at like competitive results, Mega Audino EX won the World Championship, though it's generally like considered not like a it's like one of the weaker World Championship winner decks. It was more like a meta call, kind of like Iron Thorns EX. It's still very good decks, but not like all-time great decks necessarily. And then Mega Rayquaza EX was good. But Gardevoir EX was also like pretty good, though I think it's more known for being an expanded deck by a lot. And I think there's two Mega Gardevoir EX, which are both like fine. And yeah, Mega Rayquaza, Mega Manectric EX as well. They're like fine. And yeah, they're just like okay, I guess.
Yeah, I heard someone else talking about these old Mega EXs and saying that they weren't very good, and then said except it did happen to win Worlds, so it's like okay, is that seems like it's kind of good, but yeah, generally they weren't considered strong cards. So,
Yeah. Oh, so for Mega Odd Note, like you look at tournament results here, the tournament results aren't like anywhere near as complete as they are now, which aren't even fully complete. However, this card, it's only in one deck in all the tournaments, which is the first place finish at the World Championships, which is really good. But yeah, it's like it's like a solid card. As I said, it's kind of like to me Iron Thorns EX, which is good, but not like some. It's not a card in a deck that we're going to be like 5 years from now thinking, "Wow, that's like so broken."
right. So look, so these are two prizes. The new ones are three prizes, which is a huge difference. And the big difference is though that these evolved from the EXs, kind of how the V Maxes evolved from the Vs, right? Or the V Stars evolved from the Vs. It's like that. It's from multi prize to multi prize was the old one. They didn't do that with the new Mega EXs, which does make the new Mega EXs in that sense, I think, more powerful than the old EXs. Well, in a couple ways. First off, it's more powerful in that it evolves in a single prize, which is good. You can have the regular EX as well as the Mega EX in your deck for flexibility, and you will do that in some cases for sure, like with the the psychic guy, Gardevoir, right? While they're in format together, I assume you're playing both of them, and
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
yeah, I would
We'll
think you,
talk about
yeah, and then the other thing is. It is worse though because it's three prizes. The old ones were two prizes, right? You'd rather give up less prizes, but of course it is a tanky or two. These are what 340 and 360 HP. The old ones were what two uh, low 200s, 220. I'm looking. It looks like about was where they're running.
Yeah. And the basic EXs, you had like Mewtwo EX had 170. The old one, the new one has 230. Which is like, they're both I think pretty average HPs, and so some jump up. It's not like it's a substantial jump up, but it's not like they wouldn't be able to compete super well. But anyways, so yeah, there was like a jump up on HP. Some people are like these HPs are like absurd. Like 360 is higher than anything we've seen. 340 was the max before, but there are plenty of cards with 340 HP, and they're not like super good. All of them, right? A lot of them aren't.
Which of the old EXs? You're talking about the new
Oh no,
EXs,
just like
the megas?
cards in the game now.
Yeah,
They're
well,
or in like have 340 HP, and they're not like their HP being high doesn't make them broken.
yeah, but the like because they're slightly, but there's better cards that are like 10 or 20 HP less, right? Right?
Yeah,
Like Charizard EX is 330 HP, right? So that's only 10 less, and that's a great card. But while Mega Lucario is 340, there is a 340 card in the game. Mega Lucario is a stage one, the other is a stage two.
well,
So
no, there is a stage one with 340 HP.
a base without any manipulation. I get
Uh,
confused sometimes. So
what do you mean without Oh, yeah. Well,
just when you
yes,
put the
there's
card in
Caliph and
play.
EX. It's Caliph and EX.
Oh, okay, pal. Yes, you're correct. Okay, I just
So I don't know if that categorizes as without manipulation on that one, but
no, I no, meaning like you don't need a special tool or some other Pokemon in play. You're right. It's hard to get in play. So obviously, yeah. So in the Gardevoir EX is the highest Pokemon in format. Will be when it comes out, although it might not be. Right. We don't know what it's because Gardevoir. Because it's 340 HP and 360 HP, but to me the important difference is Gardevoir is 50 HP higher because Gardevoir is not that high of an HP stage 2 at 310. Lucario has gone up 80 HP though, and that's a huge bump. And if we take 80, so we're gonna probably get close to 400 HP Pokemon with these EXs. We might hit it. I'm not certain. So
yeah, no,
that's
I
pretty
think we will.
tanky. I gotta say.
Um, yeah, I will say, like we're talking about Cynthia's Garchomp EX and Steve's Metagross EX, and they also essentially have 400 HP with buffs that are like pretty minimal buffs. You just like attach a card or two and like do some stuff. Pretty simple. So yeah, they are tanky though. And they'll be difficult to one shot. It's still pretty easy to two shot with like standard decks. I think I want to talk about because I've heard people say like three prizes are like all super broken, which is well, we'll figure out pretty quickly that's not true. Though some are, some definitely are. But these specifically, I'll talk about what they do. Mega Lucario EX, again, 340 HP. Stage 1 gives us 3 prizes. Aura Jab for 1 fighting does 130. And you attach up to 3 basic fighting energy from your discard pile to your bench Pokemon and anybody you like. Then Mega Brave here, it says it does 270 for 2 fighting and cannot use Mega Brave next turn. There is a new item as well, which boosts fighting Pokemon's damage output by 30, which is quite good, and clearly intended to be used here because, I mean, they're revealed together. And then so it's like, it's solid. And then Mega Gardevoir EX here, Overflowing Wishes for 1 Psychic for each of your bench Pokemon. Search your deck for a Psychic Energy and attach it to that Pokemon and shuffle your deck in Mega Symphonia. Again, for 1 Psychic, it does 50 for each Psychic Energy attached to all of your Pokemon. Again, 360 HP, Stage 2, 3 prizer.
Yeah, I mean, look, a couple. First, fighting Pokemon is not very strong in the TCG right now, I would say. So this is looking. I don't. This is probably the best fighting Pokemon in TCG. If we just added
Cornerstone
this,
Mastogropon EX
uh,
is really good.
that's true. But fighting's not very good in the TCG right now, right? You'd agree with that as a general statement, I assume.
Mhm.
Like you're not playing fighting decks for the most part.
Yeah. Fighting Energy is not that bad on Rageable EX is good, but it's not a fighting Pokemon, obviously.
Right. Obviously, that this premium power pro that adds 30 damage is a big boost to fighting decks. So I think the first attack on Mega Lucario is very good. 130, you boost it with your power pro. You're not one shotting anything big, but you can probably two shot multi prize Pokemon with it while you're accelerating energy, so that's pretty good there. The second attack, I'm not thrilled with 270. You're really relying on playing at least one of the item card to get to the damage you need, probably to one shot multi prize Pokemon with it. So, oh, that's not true. The basic EXs you're going to one shot. You might need one power pro, one item, and you're one shotting like the stage ones.
Yeah, I mean, you one shots a good chunk of them without it as well. And then for stage 2s, you probably need 2, which is like it's doable. It's fine. I mean, this attack's like solid. If this was on a 2 prizer EX, it'd be quite good. I think
Right.
the first attack is and so like and accelerating energy is nice. I don't really know what your target is here. Even if we get a solid target, this doesn't seem amazing. The ones I'm thinking about, like Groudon, I thought of Track but that's rotating, and will have been long gone by the time this comes out. But there are like some mediocre targets here. But generally, energy acceleration attacks aren't super good, I feel like, in the TCG. Like we've seen a lot of them, and some that have places in the metagame, theoretically, like there are some for Regidrake Vistas, like Dragonite and Alolan Executor EX, which doesn't use that attack that much. So it's like, it's okay. Theoretically, getting 3 extra energy and doing very solid damage is good. But attacks that are like setup and damaging attacks, I feel like generally aren't super good.
Yeah, no, you're right, and especially on a 3 prize Pokemon to do the setup, I don't love it. It's a matter of what other fighting Pokemon are around, right? I mean, Lucario's not one. Oh, I'm expecting a great card for Lucario, right? There are that's so. I don't think this is. I imagine there's going to be much better Mega EXs than this Lucario. Is my thought. Now, for terms of acceleration attacks, though, I was playing some Future Box recently and really loving Miraidon. So single prize accelerators can be pretty good, though, I think.
That's true. And there are some in the past as well. I can think of there's the 2 Volcanions. You played the one. You probably won't talk about it, but it was played with one of the 3 prizers, or I guess a few, but mainly one.
Yeah.
And then there is, I don't know, they're okay. Currently in standard, they're not super good. Your Future Box, it's okay. I think it's like a little
Mhm.
underrated, I guess, because I haven't really seen it in a very long time. But it's not that good, right? Rhydon's fine, but I don't think you'd say it's an amazing Pokemon.
No, and if you play the future deck, you have the Iron Crown and you have your tool, so you have a lot of boosting to your damage as well. So And it's also prize match. Look, my concerns with three prize Pokemon are just, does it drive out the single prize decks are always what I feel bad for in the game, and unfortunately I think the two prize EXs are still driving out the single prize decks, except for Snorlax, which that's going away thankfully. So
Yeah,
I
and Snorlax isn't even played like that much now.
no.
And then there's like Lost Zone and there's another one. I don't remember. There's a few, and there's like some okay ones.
Right. Because like, especially like when we could talk about the V
Oh, Ancient
Maxes,
Power.
and right now these don't seem as good as the V Maxes, but these are only two. Although the Gardevoir does seem better. I don't think the Lucario's that great of a card, I gotta say.
Wait, do you
Um,
think the Gardevoir's better?
yes, I do.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about this one then.
Okay, so the Gardevoir, since seems that you don't believe in this one, you're a Gardevoir
No, I think
hater.
it's like not. Well,
Good. You think
we'll see.
Lucario's better? Okay.
Yeah, I think Lucario EX is okay. Like it's like a it could see some competitive play, especially with the item. It's like this item's actually like quite good. We've seen items similar. They've been like absurd. But yeah, I think Big Gardevoir EX doesn't really. I
Well,
think we'll talk about it. But
now, and we're not going to have the good Curlian format with it, so that's important to remember. Because if we had the Curlian format that you discard a card, draw two, this would be a lot better. Now you can play it expanded that way, and that's not. I think that's a solid option there. But it's 360 HP, so the highest HP for any Pokemon in the TCG that we know of when it comes out. But Gardevoir is not a high HP stage 2, so I expect that this won't be the highest when it actually comes out. But two solid attacks here, I think. Each of these bench overflowing wishes for one psychic. Both are one psychic energy. Each of your bench Pokemon search your deck for a basic psychic energy attached to that Pokemon. Shuffle your deck. So it's an energy acceleration attack, which you just said is bad. This is 360 HP. So outside of weakness, you're not going to get one shot much, right? So if you don't get one shot, you set up, you're accelerating from your deck. So that's really good. So now you're getting 5 energies in play. And then it sets up.
well,
No, don't be a hater here. You, I didn't say anything wrong, right?
I guess not. I don't know. I mean, I disagree. I think this card's bad. I think this attack, the
Okay,
first attack,
let me keep
bad.
going here. Let me keep going. So, I mean, it's a stage 2, so the big question. But
Yeah,
also,
you said basic single prizers like have solid setup attacks when they also do damage, and this doesn't do any damage, and is a
all
or
right,
yeah, this is a stage 2 and is a
but
3 prizer. It's not like a
okay, but it's 360. I'm never getting one shot. Okay, I stand by that. Don't I don't want to
except
hear
against
it.
like Charizard
No,
or like Raging Bull can probably one shot you. It's a bit of a reach for them, but not. It's pretty
look,
doable.
but okay, I think it's going to be good while we have the Gardevoir EX in format potentially. This in Gardevoir EX deck, I'm liking that. I got to say, because then it also has the second attack, Mega Symphonia for 1 energy. Does for 1 psychic, does 50 per each psychic energy attached to all your Pokemon. So Gardevoir EX, I've just accelerated 40 energies, and I'm doing. I don't know what the math is. I can't even. I can't, there's no. That's the biggest number I've ever
Or you
heard of.
accelerated what 4?
40 energies. 40.
Wait, 40?
Why
I
not
wasn't paying attention.
With Gardevoir EX, right?
Okay, you're so yeah.
Why not? Because I
Uh,
want to do a lot of damage. So right. So look, you pretend look you don't play 40 energies, but you're going to do huge damage with that. I think with the current Gardevoir EX, which can accelerate to anything, set up your single prize attacker still. You're going to slap 1 copy of the Mega Gardevoir EX in the deck. I know we're losing Curlia, but Gardevoir EX is not going away completely,
yeah,
right?
Gardevoir EX. If you're looking at Japanese results, it's like it's within the top 10, pretty definitively. Probably not top 5. I think it's around like deck 7 or 8 in Japan.
Hmm.
You could put it if you want it outside the top 10. If you had 10 decks you think are better, that's like understandable. But it's pretty close. It's still a legitimate competitive deck. Not quite the top tier, but it's pretty good.
And I think if you're playing Gardevoir EX, which you can do post rotation, I think I'm adding a copy of the Mega Gardevoir EX in the deck. Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. A 1 of tech in 1 deck isn't, it's not game breaking. It's not even, it's like fine. It's like it's all right.
Yeah.
Um,
But okay, so here's the other thing. So I look, I'm not a big fan of the Mega Lucario EX. I'm just not sold on that. I gotta say. But here's the thing with Mega Gardevoir EX. It's a stage 2. That's bad. Okay, I'll grant you that. But if I'm not getting one shot, it's going to be tough to one shot.
Well, this is easier. This is probably arguably easier to one shot than the Mega Lucario EX because you're also damaging yourself, and well, you're probably damaging yourself.
well,
And then fighting also has like tanky stuff that's pretty easy to play.
well, post rotation, Mega Gardevoir EX. Post rotation, once I lose the current Gardevoir EX, right? Which because you're only going to have the two in format together for a few months. I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. It's not that long, like
Right.
6 months maybe.
3 to
But,
6 months they're overlapping. Then there's 2 years without it
mhm.
in format. So in that case, I use then you're gonna probably need to use the first attack, set up your bench. You get hit into, you're not getting knocked out, and then you press a Turo scenario. Boom, you're out of play. He's gone, and you can. It has a single energy attacker too, so it's easy to promote attack, and you can keep attack looping and all that. So I think it's viable.
But when did Turo Scenario come out?
Oh, it's not rotating. Is that going to rotate at the same time?
It might. Yeah, I think it is. But anyway, so I think, but like we were saying these are probably not the strongest megas. Like there might be a
Correct.
mega that just like one shots this. On like turn, that would be turn like 2 or turn 3.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you're giving them some time. I don't think this is like this attack. So we saw another card like this, which is actually another 3-prizer, which is Alchemy VMAX. Alchemy VMAX was okay. It says, yeah, this is like the same attack. It says for each of your bench Pokemon, it's actually oh yeah, no, it's exactly the same thing. So you accelerate a Psychic Energy to each of your bench Pokemon. This attack was used occasionally. This card was actually part of the best deck in format for like this is a pretty short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fine.
The Shadow Rider deck, right? The Shadow Rider.
Yeah, the Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX, which we'll probably talk about some. One of the biggest fall offs of any card I've ever seen in standard. Like this card was considered like super broken when it came out. There's like mild cries for it to be banned. There's like that for like a bunch of different cards always, but it was one of those cards that was like super insanely good. And Alchemy VMAX saw play for its second attack, it's actually kind of like Mega Gardevoir EX's second attack, though I'd say a little better. It is like a stage 1, but and that card wasn't like super good. People tried it separately. People tried it because this card came out before Mega Calyrex, or before Calyrex, Shadow Rider Calyrex VMAX. That's the name of the card. But people tried to attack with the first attack, and it wasn't particularly good. It wasn't like the worst deck ever, but it wasn't like a serious deck.
Okay. Yeah. Look, I think between these two mega Pokemon, both the Lucario and the Gardevoir EX, they're not great, but I think those will be better. So here's the questions. First, I have a question just to make sure I understand correct. There aren't going to be any basic mega EXs, correct? Because it's an evolution by definition. Is that?
I thought there are. I think there. Well, because these, it says like normally I feel like Mega Lucario should be evolved from regular Lucario. But no, I think there can be. Yeah, I think there will be mega. I don't know what Pokemon have. Let me find the Pokemon that have megas. Yeah, Mega Autono. Like Mega Autono would be a basic because Autono is a basic. Then Mega Autono would also be a basic because it doesn't. It's not going to evolve from Autono, and they would want to give it a card.
Yeah, but is there an Autono EX? There's not in the game.
Well, it doesn't evolve from but it doesn't evolve from Autono. I mean, they're basic EX, like the Mewtwo EX, right? There's Mewtwo EX, so there'd be Mega Mewtwo EX. Definitely, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get that. And that would be basic.
Well, but you see, but here's the question, because it says the Mega Evolved form of Lucario. So it says Mega Evolved in the concept behind it. So here's the thing: if there's going to be basic Mega EXs in the game, then I think that's going to be highly disruptive. If they're only evolutions,
I kind of agree.
It's not going to be as bad, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be basics. I don't see why there shouldn't be basics. Like, it's kind of weird that they're basics, but we've seen basic. Well, so we talked about the Mega mechanic, but if you search Mega into a bunch of young Megas and Meganiums come up. Anyway, so if you search it into the Limitless, just search it, you see Mega Lopunny and Jigglypuff GX. So this is a basic with a Mega on it. So this is something we have actually seen in Mega Sableye and Tyranitar. It's not just that, but we see, or it's not just Mega Sableye, but we see Mega Sableye on a basic card. So it's not like they haven't put Mega Pokemon on basic cards before. And so that is something that I think would make sense. Like it's not something that Pokemon necessarily stay away from like a game design, video game to the card game perspective either.
Okay, I mean, because the old EXs, the capital EXs, like there was the Mega Blastoise EX, but there's also the Blastoise EX, so which was a stage 2 Pokemon, but the EX form was a basic to start with. Whereas now Blastoise EX is in the game now. It's a stage 2, so if there's a Mega Blastoise EX, it's going to be a stage 2 again. It's just the fact that it says Mega Evolve form in both of the names of these makes me wonder if there's only evolved Pokemon. I haven't seen anything or heard anything about that. If someone has some information or thoughts, put it in the comments for the video, please, because I think that's a huge deal. The questions are there going to be basic Mega EXs?
Which, as I said, I think there is no reason there wouldn't be. Other than I don't think you don't want them. I think you don't want those.
Well, I think
I don't want them.
You don't want them or you don't mind them?
No, I do want them. One of my favorite cards of all time is a basic 3-prizer.
Okay.
Which we'll talk about.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I'll be kicked off the podcast, and then it'll just end.
and your channel will be boycotted by everyone, right?
Because your channel will be boycotted.
This is probably... it's been long enough since it's been formatted. It might not be the #1 voted card for the most hated card of all time, but a year or two ago, it probably was the most hated card of the TCG if you took a poll of the general players. I think.
Maybe. Might have been. Everyone hates the new Mega Lucario EX. That's
so are there going to be basics? Because basics, I love big tanky basics, but getting a big tanky basic, it makes other like single prize decks almost unbeatable. The single prize decks has to have the slowing to compete.
Single prize decks can't beat the 3-prize basics. That's what you're saying, right? Yeah.
Right. They could, like the tag teams came out. Most single prize decks just got obliterated, right? And even the VMAXs, right? I'm gonna have to play a deck like Rapid Strike Malamar again to make you ruin your life. I'll have to talk about that deck forever again because that was a single prize deck that could scale to knock out the multi-prize decks, right?
Yeah, like theoretically, if you got hit the 1 in a million chance, which my opponent always hit, and I never hit. It's not because I'm bad. Definitely not that one.
No, it was just random.
Yeah, let's talk about tag teams.
So the other question though, and we don't know the answers, how many of these Mega EXs are there going to be? That's the other of how, right? If they print a whole lot of them, then there's going to be some really good ones, and they're going to take over the game possibly for the next 2.5 years. That's which I don't want to see.
Yeah, I think there'll be like 12 or so. Sounds about right. Well, if it's 2 sets, 6 per set, seems okay. Well, I don't know. So it's kind of weird, right? Obviously, so this is corresponding to the new video game. And this is why it's like dropping partially through the year.
Right.
But like there's going to be a bunch of new megas, I think. I don't know how many there's going to be. I really, we don't know much of the video game, so I don't know how many is expected. But I feel like Pokemon wants to give them all new megas, or new like Mega EX cards, right? That would make sense. And then they also want to give Mega EXs to like fan favorite megas, so that might be like 20 or like 30. But that's like a ton. That's just like an insane amount of multi-prizers to have in a set, which you just don't really see on top of regular EXs. We'll see what the sets, and then they also need the trainers Pokemon EXs, which they want a few of. So we'll see what the sets are looking like, and we'll see about the Terras. And I guess we're not getting more Ancient and Future Pokemon, and like Stellars. I don't really know what's going on with that.
Hey, let me just ask. I know you want to get to. We need to move on quickly, but is the end of when rotation happens a year from now, a few months after these Mega EXs come out, are we going to move on to the past the EX era for sure, or could we have a 4th year of EXs? Because that might are they going to have a whole year?
We could, yeah.
And then we could get Mega EXs the following year, right?
That's true. Yeah. Then maybe they'll be the main mechanic. Well, then it wouldn't just be the next year; it would be the next 3 years after that, presumably, right?
But we're used to 3-year blocks of things, right? Of Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield, but they haven't always been 3-year blocks. Could we have a 4-year block of EXs, for instance?
I don't think so. I think all this stuff's pointing to no. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I don't 100% know, but I'd assume not.
All right.
Um, yeah.
All right. So we talked about the difference between the new Mega EXs, the old. They're very different, right? The name is the same, and that's about the only thing that's the
Yeah,
same.
the name's like mostly the same, but not exactly the same. Yeah.
Yes, but the way they work.
So,
So you want to talk about the tag team now, right?
yeah.
Briefly, because that's so.
Um,
Or you want to talk about the V
Maybe.
Maxes?
Oh no, I was saying the album was to briefly. So the tag
Oh,
teams, they are we kind of like we haven't exactly talked about them super directly, but you said they're three prizers obviously. They're basic Pokemon
yes.
and they're Pokemon GXs. Pokemon GXs have a GX attack. The other ones like Zoroark GX, Decidueye GX, and Buzzwole GX, for example, were all their regular stage. Buzzwole GX was a basic. Decidueye GX was a stage 2, and Zoroark GX was a stage 1. They all had a GX attack. It's a once per game attack. It's like a V Star power, except there aren't any abilities, they're only attacks. And they had other attacks. They're actually really cool. I think a lot of people like them a lot, and they're similar to the current EXs and the V Stars, and I think people like those as well. And that seemed pretty intentional by Pokemon. So they're moving on to the next logical step of the tag teams. The tag teams were not as viewed as favorably. I'm currently looking at the 2019 to 2020 metagame on Limitless TCG. Um, and so this like kind of shows the metagame. There's a few different tag teams we'll talk about. I don't know how many specific ones we'll talk about, but there were 4 sets of tag. It was 1 year, so 4 sets. And we had looking at the best decks from this year. We see most of them are tag teams. The regular GXs were pushed out of the game and almost entirely, outside of I think the Dene GX, which was like absurd, and also like used for its ability. But like Zoroark GX is viewed as one of the best time, I think. It's certainly up there. And that was like not entirely pushed out of the metagame, but mostly pushed out of the metagame at this time. But then we saw the top decks here are Mewtwo and Mew, which is a tag. Oh, the tag team GXs featured 2 Pokemon, which is actually really cool thematically if you want to see Pokemon team up. But they mechanically, on top being 3 prizes, their GX attacks had like 2 effects. There's like a regular attack, and then you could pay some additional cost to do something more. Um, it mattered a lot for some of them and not much for others, but you had Mewtwo Mew as the top deck, Zacian V, but Zacian V was played with either Arceus and Dalian Palkia GX, one of the tag teams, or Lucario and Melmetal GX, another one of the tag teams. Generally, though it wasn't always played with them, it could be played with something else. Then we had Pikachu and Zekrom tag team. We see Blacephalon. This is a single prize Pokemon that it's kind of like Raging Bull, or it's like Raging Bull EX, like Goldengo EX. It's kind of in that vein. But it's a single prizer. That one was a really crazy deck. It was pretty high roll as well. Then Reshiram and Charizard was a tag team. Arceus and Dalian Palkia is one of them, a tag team. Oranguru Control. This deck got like banned. So that's something. I didn't exactly get banned, but one of the cards in it got banned. And yeah, anyway, and then there's Psychic Recharge Malamar. I'm not as familiar with that deck. I don't know exactly what like build this one is. There's some different builds. That's a more traditional single price deck. Then we have Gardevoir and Sylveon, which we can't talk about because type in. We don't talk about those on my channel. Oh, then we have Belelba and Bryce Man Mill. This one was definitely banned. And then Dragapult VMAX, which is later. So, but yeah, most of the top decks were tag teams, a few other weird things, but and no regular GXs, which are the equivalent to the regular EXs. You'd see them in from like deck to deck occasionally, but not very commonly. Yeah.
Right. So, and now you said there were two. Sometimes there were 3 Pokemon teaming up as
Oh, yeah.
well. We will get So yeah, Mewtwo and Mew, which was a good one. I
Which I
really
think people liked.
Yeah, I think that was a
Yeah.
good one. Yeah, I think people liked it all in all. I enjoyed playing Reshiram and Charizard GX. That was a welder deck. It was high rolly, so I don't know if people liked this a lot or not. But your first turn going second, you could do 230, which would one shot pretty much.
200. You couldn't really do 230.
Oh, right, 200, right. You use the GX attack, but you were often taking a one shot, something then and just rolling. So it was pretty brutal. There's one of the cards which I really hated, Gengar and Mimikyu, because the Horror House GX attack, which was a horror to me. I remember going up against that too many times and just you basically your next turn, your second turn of the game, you did nothing when they did that.
Yeah,
So
it stops you from playing any cards, but also it like uses up their turn. It was kind of weird. It wasn't
yes,
even that good. Like it was. We were talking about Shadow Rider. It was really good in that deck,
right.
and it was like solid in other situations. But I think it might have won the Mewtwo and Mew, which is Mewtwo and Mew is actually one of both of our I think favorite cards of all time. I love it. Or I don't know if it's is it your one of your favorite cards of all time?
I didn't play it as much as you, but yeah, I think it's a very good card, all in all. So
Yeah.
let's
Oh,
a box style deck that leads to a lot of flexibility, right? Because its attack or its ability copies attacks of your GX or EX from the discard pile. So, and not in play was even better. They had to be the
yeah. It could be in
bench,
play,
either one.
which
So,
even better.
yeah, so it worked both ways. So it was really good. So you match the energy of the attack of the who you're using. So
Yeah, which is unlike Reggie Draco. These are kind of similar to. It's kind of like Reggie Draco, except Reggie Draco gets to use expensive attacks and wants to use expensive attacks, and has this like set attack cost. So there's reasons to like one more than the other. But then Mewtwo and Mew also. I said the regular GXs didn't see play. That's not entirely true, as they saw play within this stack. For example, we see this card called, I think it was nicknamed Family Zard. It's a Charizard GX. It's actually pretty mediocre. And then Vileplume GX and Naganadel GX as three regular GXs that are evolutions. They were played within Mewtwo and Mew, and there's a bunch like that. And they were just copied, though. So essentially, they acted like just tag team attackers. But they did, yeah. That's probably isn't like defending tag teams, but it is a thing.
yeah, no, you mute it let things be interesting, right? It could be a dominant deck, but it could be a lot. It was a lot of different decks because how it was, even much more variety than Regidrago, right? Because it's
Yeah.
whatever type you.
Regidrago doesn't really have very much variety, to be honest, I feel like.
No. So why don't we talk about
Oh,
the
and then there's one more. You also like Lucario and Melmetal. I feel like you gotta mention that one.
Yeah, I'll mention
Um,
that. That was yeah, that was a tanky deck. It was which was kind of the opposite of the deck that you like. You like the aggressive deck. I like the tanky deck. So its GX attack made you more defensive, and there were some tools which were items at the time that could in some things to reduce damage and such. So you would just kind of have these really slow grindy games with it, which I enjoy. You don't that's
yeah.
not your style though.
I don't mind it. And when you say slow grindy, that sounds like bad. It's not like, I don't think they were this deck wasn't super unfun to play against. But against single prize decks, it would be like way worse than against multi-prize. Well, the best single prize deck was the Blacephalon, which just kind of like obliterated. But
Yes.
if you're up against some like regular single prize deck, like say a Malamar deck, I guess, then they're not going to be doing damage. Malamar, Psychic Recharge Malamar, not Rapstrike Malamar. And then it had no. Its GX stack affect you for the entire game as well, which was interesting. Just like one of I'll talk about Pikachu and Zekrom first a little bit. This one was Lightning. It had a card, Electro Power, though they weren't in format. Like they were in format together some, but not the whole time. And that's very similar to Premium Power Pro. The best tag teams are there's one from each set. There's Pikachu and Zekrom for the first one. This has 240 HP. If we're looking at HP for basic Mega EXs that are three prizers, I think the HP is not going to be 240. I think it's going to be like, um, I think it's going to be like 260 to 300 range. I don't see it being much higher than 300. What do you think?
For a single prize Mega EX,
Basic Mega
basic
EX.
EX, sorry. Um, I mean, they're adding right now. I think Gardevoir adding 50 HP is the least they're going to add. Yeah, 300 might not be.
Like what's like the low end? Because like Squawkabilly EX is 160. I feel like they're gonna I feel like 210 just seems too low.
Yeah, I would
Um,
think 250 maybe, maybe 240 for something
mhm.
is my guess. I assume there's not going to be one that's just an ability, just a support Pokemon, because I don't know that you want to play a support three prize Pokemon, right? I don't see
Yeah,
that
though I
being.
wouldn't mind seeing that. The most of the three prizers end up being kind of like they were just attackers and like focuses of your deck, and that's one of the complaints they got versus like two prizes, like we see Pheasant EX, Squawkabilly EX, and saw it with GX's Vs and older EXs as well. But we never really saw with three prizes outside of I don't know, like Umbreon VMAX. I feel like there's a Reggie Lucky VMAX. There are a few, but not that many. But then yeah, ADP, Arceus and Hellion Palkia Tag Team GX, a card that I played some. I didn't play this. I played a decent amount. It's very good. Its attack let you do 30 more damage and take an extra prize for the rest of the game, which is like really good, obviously,
Yes.
because um, like taking an extra prize. It's like Iron Hands EX, Iron Hands EX, and well, yeah. One thing that people also don't like is things that take extra prizes, which I also don't like. And that's really bad for single prize decks because you're a single prizer. The reason that single prizes are better than two prizers is because, or than multi prizers, is because they give up less prizes, obviously. But then they obviously have the downside of they're weaker. You need more copies because when you're giving up more prizes, then you're gonna have more Pokemon knocked out. So you have less deck space, and you have a lot of downsides. But then you get essentially none of the upside, like of like the two prizers. We have all the downside two prizes against this deck. So this deck was pretty bad for single prizers. It's um it's regarded as one of the best cards of all time from people I've talked to. I don't think it is. Like it wasn't even the best deck like really ever when it was in standard. It was close. I thought it was. But anyways, yeah, it was like super good. It didn't really have a weakness. Like it had a weakness to fairy, but like no one really played fairy. I mean, people played fairy a little at the beginning, but it was not great. It had like the worst support of like any type ever. So yeah, it was super good. And definitely, I think when people are like, "Oh, tag teams or like three prizes are bad," they point to ADP, and ADP is a really, and I agree that it probably shouldn't have been like printed. It's problematic. It can be fun to play with. It actually leads to versatile deck building, and decently interesting games. Assuming you're both playing like your opponent's playing a meta deck as well. If they're playing a single prize like random like rogue deck, then they're not going to have any chance at all, and the game's going to be not good. But both people are playing like good decks, which generally were three prize decks, then you could have some pretty interesting things going on.
Yeah, I mean, it just because you were taking the extra prize, it shut down pretty much eliminated one prize decks. Baby Blacephalon, I guess you maybe, but you even
Yeah,
then
I mean
you
they had like you had the kind of the upside of a two prizer, in being able to take one shots
right.
there. You just had to get lucky to do so, and then also that deck also played a lot of multi prizes.
Right. So there might have been like one single prize deck that could be in format at that point. And also early on, there was Pokemon Ranger, the supporter, which rotated, I think,
No, that
pretty.
was no,
Did it
that was
rotate even before it came out?
yeah, no, it's an expanded, and it's a
Okay.
card that keeps this in check, except not in live expanded because it's not there. So ADP is pretty good. It's not insane. Like, there is power creep, and so some of these cards have gotten stronger since then. So ADP in standard would be like fine, I think.
Oh, because you can one shot it because it's 280 HP, right? Is
Yeah,
that your
and
point?
like giving up three prizes is really bad. We'll talk about that as we get to VMAXs. But yeah, I think we can
Yeah.
move on to those now, right?
Yeah, let me just say, yeah, this is not about tag team per se, but it's about the three prize aspect with the new Mega Pokemon. It's about the prize mapping situation because with a three, what you want to do is force your opponent to take 8 prizes to win the game, right? The more prizes they have to take, the better. I think because the new Megas, because they evolve from single prizers, not two prizes, I think it will allow even better. You'll have a little more control over the prize map, I think, than you have in the past. So that's one of my concerns. I think you might be able to force your opponent to take 8 prizes more often than ever in the past with things, but time will tell.
Yeah, I also think so. That's a reason why three prizes can be better than two prizes because it can force your opponent to take extra prizes pretty commonly. Right now in standard, you can be forced to essentially take an extra prize by having taken 5 prizes, then taking your last knockout on a two prizer. But you can often get around that as well with good play. But even without like playing and planning around it the entire game, you often still will be able to do this. Assuming your opponent's not like spending lots of resources to shut down that route for you, or playing a deck where that's like the whole idea, which isn't really a thing in standard, I don't think. Versus with some of these tag teams, because there were two prizers that were good. The Pokemon V were good, the basic Pokemon V, and so people had decks built around getting your opponent down to having to essentially take 8 prizes. You played Duraludon VMAX, which was built around that as
Right.
well. And then you had the card reset stamp, which is like a one-sided Iono. So then you'd put your opponent down to a low hand and not have to put yourself down to a low hand. That card got banned eventually and expanded because it's broken.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, that's
Yeah.
not exactly true. But yeah, it is banned.
Yeah. So moving on to the VMAXs now, which are in format even as we speak, but they don't see much play, but they're there, and yeah, they're not very good right now because pretty much all the good ones have rotated, is what I'd say. But so this is a three prize poker. It's similar. It's essentially a stage one, but it's not a stage one. So if there's like a tool that does something for stage one Pokemon, it doesn't work with it.
Yeah,
But
like Zoroark. That'd be hilarious if you could like transform into like Eternatus VMAX or something. But
right.
no.
But even if it's even something that says stage ones but not rule boxes, it was not a stage one, right? They could have put that like non-rule box on Zoroark, for instance, to solve that too.
Yeah.
Although I don't think they had done that terminology at that point in time. So the VMAX has evolved from the
No,
Vs
I think they did. I think they did it
at the
two
same
sets
time.
before.
Okay.
Yeah, a little before, but it wasn't used that much. But yeah, you can actually turn Zoroark could turn into EXs and
Ye-
GXs, which is
yes.
like weird.
Which you can do it expanded now, right?
Yeah, you could do it. I think I've done it. It's like not super good, but it's funny. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked.
Yeah.
We're always sidetracked.
It's one long sidetrack. So the VMAXs have so we've had VMAXs the longest of any three prize Pokemon because they were printed for 3 years, whereas the tag teams are just printed for 1 year. And the VMAXs evolved from Vs. The Vs being two prize Pokemon, and obviously the V stars that got added later on also evolves from Vs. So they don't evolve for the single prize Pokemon. That's the big difference, a huge difference for the new Mega Pokemon EX when they come out. That these evolved. VMAX only evolved from the V Pokemon. They generally had 110 more HP because the HP is a big deal too, right? That the tankiness and power creep, which is a real thing. I don't want to scream about it, but it's real too. So pretty much they all had 210 HP, although a few Gardevoir VMAX I was looking had 120 more, but 110 more HP.
Oh,
So
was it pretty consistently 110?
when I was skimming through, yes, I was seeing almost.
Eternatus didn't have. Eternatus had.
Oh yeah, that one's probably
What
more.
this 120? Um. Oh yeah, I don't know.
So
Okay,
so anyway, it's
I didn't
about
realize this was consistent.
Rayquaza, Duraludon. I think a lot of anyway. It doesn't. So it's about that range. So we're talking about 320, 330 HP, something like that. So super tanky Pokemon. They had the no, never mind. I take that back. So which I didn't say. So they were very. So they became very. These were out when we kind of started playing the game on our early days. It was kind of the tail end of the. It was the tag teams and the Vs and the VMAXs and the VMAXs. I think unfortunately kind of really kicked out other decks, and that's part of why I'm a bit anti three prize Pokemon because basically you had to play the VMAXs for the most part, or you had to play something that hit them for weakness if you're going to play a single prize deck because you were going to take it was like 3 or 4 shots and they were just going to boom 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 blow you away. That's kind of how the game felt.
Yeah. And there are also like walling decks and some like countery decks as well. I'm trying
Yeah.
to think. I'm going to look at the metagame. This is the Evolving Skies pre-rotation metagame. So looking at here, we see Shadow Rider, Calyrex, VMAX, Calyrex and Talion, which is Ice Rider, Calyrex, VMAX with an engine, Rapid Strike, Urshifu, VMAX. We see a tag team deck. We see Eternatus VMAX, another tag team deck, Leafeon VMAX. Then we see Rapid Strike, Malamar there, and then we got Sylveon VMAX, Rayquaza VMAX. Rayquaza VMAX? Okay. Sorry, Duraludon VMAX, Umbreon VMAX, and Single Strike Urshifu VMAX. We do see Zacian V, and we see some tag teams and Suicune V. But like obviously Pokemon V, they're not single prizers either.
Right. So you either had to play a VMAX deck or a deck that was designed to beat them. There were a few things that could, but as Pokemon, the thing with all these games where like this Pokemon, where they're designing new cards, new mechanics, they always want to make the new cards the most exciting thing, and therefore, to a certain extent, they're always pushing out the old to some extent.
Okay. Except for with trainers Pokemon.
Well, I think it's
and the
some.
Terras.
Well, I think they went after. I think they've kind of tried to correct it. So I think the tag team certainly was a problem with that after the regular GX and then to the tag team and the V Maxes. They felt how they kind of felt like they had to up the tag team, and I think they said we got to get away from it. But I think this was kind of a narrow type form of the game in a lot of ways to me.
Uh, yeah, but also Pokemon's like, I feel like there isn't like substantial power creep between the V stars and the V maxes. It doesn't feel like there's really, but the V stars kind of pushed out the V maxes still, which made the game, I think, I mean, obviously, right now, we see V stars. They're not like super like all the best decks. EXs are better than V stars, but V stars are still good, and there's a lot less
Yeah.
of them. V maxes are terrible. There are some V maxes. Regieleki V Max is okay, except giving up 3 prizes is really bad. And we'll also let's talk about V unions here. Should we talk about V unions? I feel like we're doing like have to, but
So
for
anyway, you
like
mentioned just real quickly that this is the third of the 3 prize Pokemon that came out, and the V Union, which are 4 cards that make up one Pokemon. You had to get them all in the discard pile to get into play. So they made the mechanic very cumbersome. So they weren't that good. Although Mewtwo V Union wasn't bad, though, I gotta say.
it was okay. It was like a stall card, and it was like okay. It was like good at that, but it's not like some absolutely insane card. And it's also yeah, it was fine.
And every
It
piece of
was
the
kind of neat as well.
every piece of the card had its own an attack and sometimes an ability as well, and you could use whichever pieces of it when you did it. It was very awkward because you had to get them in the discard and then get them in play if something was prized. It was designed to be awkward, which I'm fine with them. Look, they made a 3 prize card, but it wasn't too good, and I'm fine with that. Right? They're a bit forgettable.
I feel like they were pretty bad. Like I liked the VMAX and tag team. Like I mean I enjoy the Pokemon TCG, and I haven't really had a massive issue with really, I mean, anything. I mean, if I had like an issue that's really that bad, I wouldn't like play, honestly. Like if it's super terrible. I mean, some people are like, this is like ruining the game, but like, if you don't enjoy the game, you don't enjoy the game. But then I feel like those people still like play the game because they enjoy it. And I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But
Well,
I'm saying that I did not mind the 3 prizes that much, though there were some decks that I wanted to play that I couldn't really play because of them.
yeah, look, I mean, first off, we were newer players, so we were accepting whatever the game was. It's the people that have been around, like playing the game for 15 years, which is not us. Obviously, the game's changed a lot. So if they want the game back then, which I can understand that viewpoint, it's just not that game anymore. So that is what it is. But here's what I'll say. We played online, and PTCG, you couldn't get the cards as easily. In live, we can get the cards. Live might not always work, but we can get the cards. So that's the
For
plus.
now.
Yes, we can get the cards for now. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I don't
And
know. You seem to think that they're gonna like make it so you can't like get any cards anymore, which
well,
I'd be.
they keep
No,
making it slightly more restrictive.
they do.
I'm not
Like
anyway.
twice now.
Yeah, but the game's not getting better, right?
No,
And anyway, that's not today's podcast. We
no,
don't
that
want
was
to.
last week's podcast,
Yeah.
and maybe next week's podcast. Hopefully
No.
not.
Well, you said pocket already, right? You
Yeah,
said
no,
it.
I don't want to talk about live for another like 5 years, but
Hopefully, we don't have to.
yeah, and hopefully because it's fixed, not because it like just stopped one day and it never heard from again.
Yeah, no, I get that. So, look, here's the concern with with the V Maxes, then they introduced the V Unions, which because it was one less prize, it kind of right now they're better than the V stars are better than the V Maxes, but that's also because we have a lot more V stars than V Maxes in the game too. But
Wait,
even
what were you saying about V unions, or did you mean to
I
say
said that by
V-stars?
mistake. I meant to say V
Oh,
stars.
okay.
So I think when we had the first year V stars came out, and there were still a lot of V maxes, they were kind of equal. They were both viable, I would say. And now, so I think they were kind of fair between the two in terms of balance. My concern is what they didn't do though. They didn't have a game with V stars and then add V maxes after. They didn't go from 2 prizes to 3 prizes, right? They went from 3 and then added a 2. They're going from a 2 to adding a 3, and usually the way things work with because the attack become more powerful, the way the numbers work once they go from 2 to 3 prizes, it has the potential to shut out the 2 prize Pokemon, right? We don't know, but that's the concern. I would say.
Yeah, and at that point, if that does happen, that's a big issue because there's not going to be that many of them. If the whole game is these megas, then you'd rather have more deck options than not. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to say I think I think the current megas look really not like really bad, but they look like not really competitive level cards. They look like whatever. And like the VMAXs at first didn't look like that, but the VMAXs, they started slow. Like the first two sets of VMAXs were kind of bad. The best one was Dragapult VMAX, which is a worse Dragapult EX. I mean, a worse Dragapult EX. It's still very good, but still, like in the third set, not the fourth set, the third set, fifth set, sixth set, stuff like that, it kind of kicked off a bit more. But if we're only seeing two sets of that, I don't know what it's going to be like. There's a chance that they are not really good at all. There's a chance that they get kicked off and they're like absolutely broken as well. Um,
Right.
yeah, we'll see. And then you also said that because I think they could stick with the EXs as well. People I think have generally liked them, and um, they like are pretty fair. Like they're a solid, just general mechanic. And then that in that case, we might get another 4 years of megas, um, potentially.
Yeah, and well, some of it obviously has to do with the video game, and I don't follow the video game cycle and where that's at, so I don't know what the expectation is for that. I don't know when they're going to know. And I'll,
Like
well,
not really that aligned. Like the Z moves became the GXs, which like doesn't make any sense.
I guess one question. Okay, so and also if it in terms of the video game, we are going to have the new console coming out. What the end of this year?
Uh,
I think is when they said
yeah.
it was going
Hopefully
to have
before then. There's the direct at some point. I don't
the
remember.
Switch 2, right? Is coming out whatever it is going to
Yeah.
be this year sometime, I think, right? So I assume they want to have maybe that's when. So they're going to have a big new basic video game, right? Pokemon video game at that point
I
to
I
push.
think I think probably that's what I'm assuming, and then that'll be this year or like next year. I don't remember, and then we'll get the new cards for it next year. That's kind of what I'm assuming.
Yeah.
That like to me makes a lot of sense. And then like megas don't necessarily make much sense there, but if they're bringing back EXs, I think they'll bring back megas at least for a year, but probably like for the whole time, but like slowly phase them out if that's what they do. But it depends what the new mechanic of that game is. But with Scarlet and Violet, the new mechanic was the Terra mechanic, and the Terra mechanic's been, I mean, it's not the main mechanic. It's not the secondary mechanic. Well, I don't know. It might be the secondary mechanic, but it's pretty. I mean, I've talked a lot about the Terra mechanic, and I don't really like it. It's pretty boring, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I mean, it doesn't really do that much. Let's be honest. It's just bench immunity. But still, yeah. Then if we get a mechanic and Pokemon's like, oh, we don't really want to focus on this mechanic as much, we might just see the Mega EXs returning.
Yeah. Sometimes the TCG, what the mechanic is very different from the video game. So I don't know what they'll do there. Yeah, I think the fact that the EXs are a two prizer and that it evolves from a one prizer, I think has been a good thing. People have liked that. I can see them continuing with that. Would they keep doing megas each, kind of spread out? Maybe could they stop the megas for 2 years and then bring them back the third year of the next
That
block?
seems weird.
It
I
does.
feel like that wouldn't happen.
Well, so one of the big questions with these EXs is going to be which EXs are they going to print, and particularly, and what do they have for current EXs to work with? Because Mega Gardevoir EX is better with the current Gardevoir EX, right? But it's going to rotate soon. So are they going to have good Mega EXs that are going to have a good regular EX for over a year, right? Because that is obviously very impactful too. We don't know about that yet.
Yeah, I think they will. Yeah, now that I'm thinking, I think now I'm pretty confident they'll have one that's pretty good, and that'll be like it might very well end up being super broken, because like you need something really good to justify giving up an extra prize. The EXs are way
Right.
better than the single prizers by like a massive margin, and yeah, we'll see.
I mean, in which case, hope like they had when they made Mewtwo VMAX, it was very good. I think people would generally agree. And then Pokemon just kept printing hard counters to that multiple times, right? And they couldn't seem to stop it. So hopefully we don't get into that type of scenario where something is that
Yeah, but
overpowered.
Mew VMAX is bad.
Well, yeah, maybe it'll be a Mega Mew VMAX, right?
Yeah, I think they'll do that one.
And they'll
Mega Mew VMAX ADP.
exactly. Yes, with all the support that Pokemon that it needs too. So yes.
Yeah.
But like I assume they're not going to go that far. But what are your concerns? I would say just for comments and thoughts, right? One of the things to think about is this: are you happy that three prize Pokemon are coming back? Right? They're not really going away. They're going away briefly, but we know that they're coming back. So it feels like they're not really going away at all. Are you
Well, I don't
happy?
know. It feels like they already went away, to be
Well,
honest. Like, when's the last time you've seen or played one?
well, I might have played. Maybe I haven't played one in a while. I guess I haven't. I'm trying to. That's a good question. I probably
You played
haven't.
like Kyurem, I think.
I
That
played
was a while
Kyurem,
ago.
and I've been wanting to play Arceus decks. 'Cause I like Arceus before it rotates, but I don't think there's a VMAX in the game that I really want to pair with Arceus now. Unfortunately, so so yeah, you can do Kyurem. You can do that, and I do like Regieleki VMAX. I do like that, and I still think the Regieleki V is still it makes that better too. I know you don't believe in that. It's not
Oh,
the
no, I think it's fun. It's fun.
I mean, it's not the best thing in the world, but so VMAXs haven't been good, and I guess they probably planned that out. That's where Pokemon does. They're smart. They probably knew that this last set of VMAXs wasn't going to be good, and that's fine. And the V stars have been good, but we can play those. But we also have the EXs, so hopefully they do a good job with the Mega EXs. These first two are certainly fine. They're nothing. I don't want to see them be as bad as the V unions because they were essentially
Convenience weren't in like packs, by the way, if you didn't know. If anyone watching this is like what's going on with these? Like, did people just like pull random like foot and like head cards out of their packs? Like, no, that didn't happen. They're just promo exclusives.
right. They're in tins, right? I believe you got the 4 V union cards plus some packs. I guess I don't remember.
Yeah, it was something like that, not exactly that, but yes. And then also if you haven't played with any three prizes, try them out. Like on say Pokemon TCG Simulator or on Live, you can play them and expanded and just kind of get a
Right.
feel for them. Though I'd say like if you try out like on like PTCG Sim, so it has older format decks. You can find some three prizes and play them, and you can get a feel for what they're like because it's fun to play a few games with them. Definitely, to try it out. I don't think people will. I don't think you like. It's an interesting experience for really any format, to be honest.
Right. And you can do it in live and expanded if you're a newer player without a lot of resources. Um, I know we've run long here. So one of the things is they made the game cheaper in terms of a budget player, in terms of crafting cards, when they went from the
Oh,
Vs to the EXs, right? Because the Vs were more than the basic than the EXs, and the V Maxes and the V Stars were even more than that, and the tag team were more as well. So are these Mega Pokemon going to be more expensive to craft? And I think yes. I think the answer is yes. So maybe this is part of how they're going to make the game tougher too.
uh-huh.
Economy. So something else,
Lot, yeah.
right? I don't you think that I think there's a decent chance that these are going
Yeah,
to
no, I think that
be
makes
more
sense. I mean,
expensive.
like, they are like supposed to be like the next level of regular EXs. So in
Right.
some ways that doesn't make sense, but still, it's obviously
I,
not really what we want to see.
Yeah, if you only need one or two of these cards, it's not so bad. With the V Maxes, you needed the basic Vs and stuff, so they weren't expensive. The reason I was saying this in the first place, though, is you can play ADP in live or whatever. You can play Reshazard Welder deck, which are fun to play. But if you don't have a lot of resources, they are expensive to craft those cards, so you might not want to do it if you're a newer player. But if you've been around, if you've been playing for a couple of years, you probably have a ton of whatever credits are cards called now. I can't even remember. But if you have the resources, play some expanded games in live. It's not going to work any worse than standard, quite frankly. So, and your opponent's probably it might not be the best, but even in standard, the matchups are kind of shaky anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you might not find anyone, but most people are AFK in standard anyways.
No, but it is fun playing these older decks too. So the idea of trying out at some point some three prize decks, seeing how it works. It does the prize mapping. It can be more interesting because forcing them to take 8 prizes right now, you can force them to take 7, but forcing them to take
You
8.
can force them to 8
Well,
because there are 3 prizes.
I know, but I know. So, but you can try that.
I mean, force them to take 8 isn't actually harder than forcing him to like. It's the same amount of work as taking 7 because the 2 prizes have the same HP as the 3 prizers, but still.
Yeah, well, it's a stage 2, right? So
Yeah.
the ones with the same HP, but yeah. So anyway, it's there to try. I'm hoping they're okay, but not too good. That's my hope. And you're probably in the same place. You don't want to see them be garbage. You don't want to see it be you have to play a mega deck or nothing, right?
I want to see him get me lots of views. That's what I no. Yeah, I want to see him be like fine, fun, and interact interestingly with the regular EXs. So you can have decks with 1, 2, and 3 prizes at the same time, which I think would be
Yes.
really interesting. You've talked about this before. Just to again, we are running along, but you like decks that you found interesting formats that you have 2 prizes and 3 prizes at the same time, really being focused in on, and I think having all 3 would be really fun. That are good.
Yes, yeah. I mean, having all those options of what to to attack with a 1, a 2, or 3 prizer, it's good, and it forces more decision making over the course of the game, which is all fun and what we want to happen. So hopefully, it's going to be a good thing. Now it's still a long ways out too, right? They announced it. This was announced at Pokemon Day, by the way. We didn't say that at the beginning, so which they don't always mention the TCG, right, at Pokemon Day. So that was nice that it got
Uh,
mentioned too.
yeah, I think they usually mention
Uh,
something, but it's not always very interesting.
Right. The world's announcement is the big TCG announcement for the future, I think.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. So I think that I think we've talked long enough here, don't you?
Yeah, I guess so. But we hope you enjoyed the episode. If you have any questions or thoughts, comment down below on our YouTube channels. And if you have a question for Uncommon Fossil or you can comment on our channels on YouTube for that specific channel. But we hope you enjoyed. Consider liking, subscribing to our channels, checking out our other stuff. But as I said, we hope you enjoyed, and we're excited to see you in the next episode.
All right. Take care.